Good morning, Houston. KHOU 11 meteorologist Kim Castro. It is just after 10 o'clock in the morning, and our severe weather storm threat window has started. So we are watching these storms closely, and there's some that catch our attention more than others. So I want to talk about which spots right now are grabbing our attention for some stronger storms. North of Spring, you'll notice those deeper red signal some heavy downpours. We're seeing some wind associated with these storms and lightning. It's the storms that have those flashes of lightning that signal that there are instability components to them, and we were watching them closely to see if they're rotating. They're isolated couplets, so it's not widespread lightning events. So this particular cell just north of the Woodlands, west of Conroe, and south of Montgomery, there are 7 strikes over the last 10 minutes. So that's going to be a cell that we watch closely. There's another one that's been pushing in from El Campo, now passing just northwest of Wharton. Another one that had some flashes of lightning has now really dropped off in its intensity, and that one was actually showing a little bit of rotation. So this is velocity tracker. We look at this to see how the winds are moving. Red means moving away from radar, green moving towards, and anytime you see an individual cell that has a little bit of green and a sea of red, that signals that the actual storm is rotating, it's spinning. Now this doesn't signal an immediate concern because we have to monitor it and wait for it, see if it actually starts to show any signs of rotation that might be reaching the ground. So that's what we're going to be doing all morning and afternoon long, really all day, because that threat exists for us to see any one of these individual cells gain some characteristics that could become severe. For the time being though, they just look like a couple of strong storms. Those two that I pointed out, this one trying to travel there towards Sugar Land, and the one that's just north of Spring pushing its way into Cleveland, and then eventually exiting from Polk County. So the severe threat for these storms really looks to start on the southwest side of our cities and counties and then pushing towards the northeast. Notice there's another big spot of wet weather, and that is along the coastline. So a couple of heavy downpours along the coast. None of these right now showing lightning or any rotational characteristics, but definitely a big ample moisture source along the coast. That's just a wide look at the areas that are showing us storm potential right now. It's definitely picked up over the last couple of hours, and that's what we were expecting for the window of opportunity to start to increase as we go later on in the morning and into the afternoon, because that's when the ingredients start to become more abundant and more concentrated. Ingredients meaning the warmth and the moisture that we need for these storms to give us signals that they could become severe. When it comes to the severe potential, we're mainly talking about rotation within these storms. That's going to be the biggest threat based on the profile of our atmosphere. We could see some strong wind gusts with the individual storms, and that could push at around 50, maybe even 60 miles an hour. Small hail, we've already seen that. Radar indicated in a storm cell that was in Palacios, so that's a small threat for today, but it's still there. And then street flooding is going to be isolated, I think, in a couple couplets that stay concentrated in an area, especially if you notice a rain shower coming over your home, and that's notorious for having poor drainage. It's in a low-lying area. Then you can expect that to be a concern for this afternoon as well. I want to talk to you about which areas are highlighted for the biggest potential to see these strong to severe storms. Notice we are all in some type of a threat, whether that's a level 2 or a level 3. All of Southeast Texas is under that risk to see these storms fire up some issues. The highest threat is an enhanced level 3 on the 1 to 5 scale. So this is not something we have very typically here in Southeast Texas, which is why we're paying a lot of attention and having a lot of eyeballs on the radar today. Our entire weather team is here, a team of 5 meteorologists, keeping an eye on each individual cell, just tracking its motion, tracking its development. Is it intensifying? Is it weakening? Because we do have that kind of widespread overall threat that any one of these storms scattered throughout the area could at any moment start to show some spinning characteristics. So again, the main threat with today's weather event, the setup of it, points to some isolated scattered tornado probabilities. The main threat, again, it's going to be right around this late morning, early afternoon time frame. So we've started that highest threat time frame, and this is going to be the time that you want to be most vigilant. So we're going to have updates live every hour, live streaming. We're also going to have team coverage on our newscast. So our next newscast is at 12 o'clock. I will be paired up with Chief Meteorologist David Paul. We also have Pat Kavlin in the building. He's going to be teamed up with Chief David Paul 4, 5, and 6. We have meteorologist Chris Ramirez here. We're going to be giving you updates on the digital side as well as on our social media accounts. So whichever way you like to consume news, we'll be on there to give you those updates. And if anything starts to develop and if we get any warnings, you'll be the first ones to know about it. Just make sure that you've got the KHOU app downloaded and you can get those alerts immediately. Otherwise, when you open up your social media accounts, you'll have those warnings there. I want to walk you through future track. What the models are hinting at could be the areas that we start to see some of these storms develop as we go throughout the afternoon. Now, this is a model, a prediction. It takes different elements in the atmosphere and kind of computes its best estimate as to where the showers could pop up. Now, I want you to look at this with a grain of salt because any spot, and it's really hard for the models to pin down exact locations of these storms and the exact timing, but I want you to know kind of the general idea, which is going to be heavy rain along the coast and then pockets of isolated showers that pop up sporadically throughout the day. Now, some of these pockets will develop, like I mentioned, southwest of town, so pushing in from Palacios, El Campo, working their way up through Sugar Land, through Richmond, passing through the city center, potentially maybe areas to the north around 2:30, 3 o'clock. That's a snapshot at 3:30. And it's showing, you know, storms progressing along the coast, isolated couplets with intensity. And we know they're potent because of the radar reflectivity that they're projecting. So any pockets of heavy, deeper oranges, brighter reds signal a lot of instability, a lot of moisture. And those have the capability to rotate because we've got this low-level jet, this wind source that is going to aid it in that capability to spin up. So that's a snapshot at 8 o'clock. Notice as a general picture, things start to wind down. Now, could there be an isolated couplet that fires up at 8 o'clock? Yes, that's still there, but the general overall widespread potential definitely goes down once the sun goes down. I want to show you our model that shows severe weather ingredients. This basically tells us whether or not all the severe components line. Why are we saying that the biggest severe threat is between, let's say, 10 and 2 p.m. or 10 and 4 p.m.? It's because that's when we start to see the majority of what we need to see that potential line up. So in a severe weather scenario, we look for moisture, lift, and instability. And when we're talking about a tornadic threat, we look for wind shear. So this area there that you see in yellow and in orange, that gives us the moisture, lift, and instability potential. So 2 o'clock, that's when it really ramps up. And you'll notice, again, it favors out starting off in the southwest, pushing towards the northeast. So that would bring you those heavy downpours, the flashes of lightning, the gusts of wind, your severe thunderstorms. Now, this low-level jet here is wind at higher levels of the atmosphere and counteracting with the wind that's at the surface. So wind at the surface is coming at us straight from the Gulf, right out of the south. That's why you may have noticed it's pretty soupy outside. There's a lot of moisture that's moved in. Now, once that wind interacts with that low-level jet, that's when we start to see wind that rotates the higher up in the atmosphere that we go, and that could lead to supercells, so storms that rotate, have a rotating motion. Now, if those storms start to have individual vortices, individual columns of air that rotate and start to funnel down into the ground because they gain momentum, kind of like a figure skater that's spinning. Once they put their arms in closer, they spin faster, and that momentum allows the possibility of those storms to reach the ground. So because these two are lining up at 2 o'clock, I say that's going to be your biggest threat, to see not only a severe thunderstorm, but the potential for those thunderstorms to be tornadic and thus warrant a warning from the National Weather Service. So that's going to be a time frame that we're going to be most mindful of, because all of those ingredients are lining up. Now, as we go forward in time, what you'll notice is that severe potential is still there, but the low-level jet starts to shift a little bit further away. So it really kicks up to the northeast. And then while we still have the instability, I think the tornadic threat certainly goes down for the evening. So just watching this very particular window of threat. Taking a live look outside right now, it's definitely messy. There's lots of thick cloud cover out there. There's pockets of lighter showers, moderate showers, and some heavy downpours in those isolated cells. Notice along the coast, choppy water. It's going to be pretty dreary throughout the day, but temperatures are in the upper 60s. So that's the fuel source. We've got plenty of warmth that we're dealing with and plenty of moisture. So now's the time to try and get yourself a little bit situated and acclimated, and just refamiliarize yourself with your plan in case there is a severe storm to pop up. If you're in a single family home, find the lowest level. If you have a 2-story home, go to the first floor and go to an interior space. It doesn't have to be a bedroom, but certainly try and find an area that is closest to the center as you can, because that will provide an external layer of protection. So you want to be away from exterior walls and windows. So if we were to have, let's say, a severe wind event or a tornado warning over your neighborhood, there would be a bigger line of defense surrounding you. Maybe that's a closet inside, somewhere that doesn't have loose items, so no loose furniture, things that could move around and become a hazard to you. Try to be away from that. Now, if you live in a high rise, the idea is the same. Try to get to the lower level if that is available to you. If not, go to an interior space like a stairwell, a spot that's going to be reinforced and again away from things that could be, hazardous to you if they were to be moving around. Looking at temperatures right now, they're quite hiked up from yesterday. So up by about 5 to 10 degrees area wide. I think we just saw our chief meteorologist there pass by. But you'll notice that that's going to be a fuel source. And if we see those temperatures push up any warmer, the severe threat does go up. So the reason for that is it creates more instability. What I mean by that, actually that's not our chief, that's Jim. But anyhow, I want to let you know that those are two things we're going to be watching: temperatures and dew points. Those are the two severe weather ingredients that will play into today's weather story. So if those temperatures reach the upper 60s, scrape the low 70s, there's more, and when I say instability, it just means the juxtaposition between the air masses. So warm air and moist air is less dense than cold, dry air. So it's more buoyant. What that means is that it has a tendency to rise. If the cold air is up above it, cold air wants to sink down, and then that creates a lot of fluid motion in the atmosphere, and with motion comes commotion and comes the potential for these severe storms. So that's going to be something we're watching throughout the day. Here is your Thursday forecast. So we've got the potential to see those storms really throughout the afternoon and even into the evening like I showed you. So it's going to be something that we need to monitor, which is why we'll have live updates here every hour. So the next weather update that I'll have live streaming will be at 11 o'clock. I'll have another one at 12, at 1, so on and so forth. Make sure if you don't have that KHOU app that you do download it today. That's the best way to get those alerts very, very quickly. Here's a look at the dew points. You'll notice the measure of moisture here. It's really, really ramped up for Southeast Texas, and it's targeting this area. That front that's moving in, that's creating the tension and the imbalance. So this is why the the Storm Prediction Center has flagged us for that biggest threat for today. And it was upgraded this morning, so it includes more of us. That means we all need to be on high alert, and we all need to be keeping up with this as it develops throughout the day. It's going to change. The spots that get those isolated couplets will be varying from hour to hour, really from minute to minute, and they're going to be progressing. So just make sure you are checking in with us frequently. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. Again, the team of 5 is here today. So Cheetah Craft, we've got Chief Meteorologist David Paul, we've got Chris Ramirez, Pat Kavlin, and myself. We can all answer any questions for you that may arise.